All right, welcome back. Mad Rose Woodworks, Chris here. Today we are just going to talk about building this guy. What we are going to do is we are just going to build a simple hose holder with some scraps I got kicking around, just a couple pieces of oddball plywood and some wooden dowels. Nothing fancy, and here we go. So we start out with just simply holding the hose up here to kind of measure what I'm going to need. Doesn't have to be super accurate, but just a good idea of what I'm going to build. If I could get the tape measure hooked. Yeah, so I'm looking at roughly, I want to say it was 8 to 12 inches. I want to measure between the legs because this is where the back is going to mount. And we'll just put together a rough sketch. I don't do a lot of things in SketchUp because I'm not that versed in it. I do most of my drawings and sketches in just a notepad. Just getting a rough idea. Just a square background with a just an arched front with what'll end up being a couple dowels. I was thinking about maybe get fancy. Well, let's keep it simple. So just kind of guesstimating what I'm going to need. I want to say it was 16 1/4, I believe, in between the uprights. Once I got it finished, I probably could have gone about 16 1/2. And I wasn't 100% sure on the height, but you'll see I figure it out. It's not that difficult. So here I am just picking through, looking for some scrap plywood. Just whatever I got laying around. Yeah, looks like this piece will work. Get my fence in place, figure out what measurements I want to cut first, length or width. I think I'm going to cut the length down here. Can't decide whether I want to actually hold it properly with my hands or use a push stick. Obviously, the smarter solution is to get it started. Run it through with the push stick. Get my height down. And then we'll run through. Get the width down. And then here's the scrap piece from another project I had. And I believe that was the piece I had for the back. So I don't have a compass that it actually could open wide enough to do the 16-inch arch that I was looking for, semicircle. But I did have a template that I use for my holes for shelves when I built some cabinets for the house. So we'll get roughly center, figure out where the middle of this piece is at. As you can see, it's real high quality plywood here. And then I decided I was using the wrong piece. So let's look at the one that actually will be for the back. And then I was 16 1/4, so going for 8 1/8 ish. Define center, and then just kind of mark it up there so I can see which holes line up the best. We'll get close, hold it in place with a scratch awl, and then just mark the arch / semicircle. Because again, it doesn't have to be spot on accurate. It's just got to be close because it's a hose holder. It's like something that I could have easily picked up at Home Depot or Menards. I saw one actually at the Big Orange store for like $7 for a plastic one, but why not build one? So we'll get our rough dimensions down, and I'm just cutting off the scrap because I do not have a bandsaw, and I figured, hey, let's use a table saw to get it close to what I need. Then I can go in with the jigsaw and cut the circle out. And figuring out which end's probably easier to run through without too much drama. There we go. Get them close. And move on to the jigsaw. And the trick here is to not cut into the brand new outfeed table that I just built. Want to keep it nice for a little bit at least, which later on I do end up drilling a hole through the surface. But hey, it's a workbench slash outfeed table slash whatever. I made it out of sand and plywood, 3 coats of polyurethane. Nothing fancy. It works. And it's fairly easy to clean off with all the poly on it. So as you see, I'll get this knocked out here. Done. Move on to the next step. So here I am, getting ahead of myself, thinking I'm going to lay this out in a complicated fashion. You know, measure things out, lay out the dowels perfect. Cause I wasn't sure if I was going to use pieces of plywood and try to get fancy, but there's no need to. It just needs to be functional. So I've had some extra dowels kicking around, and I needed to make sure that I had the right one, even though I do. The Forstner bit that I have for this, it was bought purposely for a children's clothes rack / shelving unit that I built a while back. And this bit was bought purposely for the wood dowel that it is sized for, which I believe was 1 1/8". So just double checking, make sure I have the right one and that I don't end up drilling holes that are too big or too small. So we got that figured out. And here I just want to make sure what length I need to cut the dowels to. I don't want them too long, don't want them too short. So I figured 2 or 3 wraps of the hose is probably all I really need. And I don't want it sticking out too far, because the end of the rail that supports the fence is right here. I'm just making sure it doesn't hang out beyond that. And then squaring up the edge before I cut them at roughly, 4 3/4 inch. So I just need 3. And there we go. All 3 pieces. So here I'm just going to mark. I figure I wanted about an 8-inch semicircle so I can lay out the dowels. And this is the one compass with a pencil that I do have. So I'm just going to mark it up for 4 inches and then swing the arc and figure out where to lay out my dowels from there. Get my center mark again. And this time, swing the compass. That'll give me a fairly accurate layout line. And again, accurate with big air quotes, because we don't need to be perfect, just close. And again, here I was going to get fancy, but let's just lay them out. Just eyeball it, figure out what looks good. Yeah, sure, that looks good right there. But I do get fancy with the center one. I will actually get a square and just make sure it's on my center point that I swung the arc from. So at least that's centered. The other two I'll just end up eyeballing here. And there you go. Looks good. And just for good measure, we'll put the hose on there and see how it looks. Very accurate, scientific move here. And I decided, oh, okay, let's move them a little more, maybe an eighth of an inch, and then it'll be perfect. So I'm just marking them up with a rough circle to kind of get an idea where I want to be at. So I'm going to use the Forstner bit. And I wasn't sure if I was going to just run the Forstner all the way through and work like that, but I decided that I would go roughly halfway into the pieces. But here I am thinking right now. You can hear the gears turning and smell the smoke. Not quite sure how I want to do this yet. Still kind of working through the process in my head. Trying to overcomplicate things, which I'm really good at. As you can see right here, I still hadn't fully decided if I was going to run the Forstner bit all the way through. So we threw on a little bit of double-sided tape so I can run it in the drill press. And come on there. There you go. And are we good? Let's see. There you go. All right. Made the commitment. So now ran through the head a couple times, and I should have come to a decision. Or are we going to sit here and stare at it a little longer? And I think we're going to sit here and stare at it a little longer. Come on. Make a decision. There you go. There it is. There it is. We're going to run a couple pilots down. This way I have my marks on both pieces. And I think this is the one that I drill through into my... Maybe not. Wait. Oh, there it is. That's the one. Yep. And you can kind of almost see the hole there. But yeah, I run it all the way through. So I know that the back plate is where I want it. And here we go to the drill press. So I get the Forstner bit in there. Like I said, I believe it was 1 1/8 inches. And I'm going to get it roughly 3/4 of the way through, 2/3 of the way, give or take. I don't have an exact measurement. I was just eyeballing this part of the process. And here we go. There you go. And I have a stop on the press, so that way I don't go all the way through. Because I promise you, without a stop, I'm pretty sure I will. At least one of them. And you can see the quality of that sanded plywood. It's some really good stuff. I ran into that when I did my outfeed table. I ran into some pretty good voids when I was routing slides, relief slides, slots for my miter sled, for my crosscut sled. But that's what you get when you're working with the sanded plywood. It's essentially sheeting / subflooring. It's not great material. I built cabinets in the garage out of it though, so I can't complain too much. It's not great, but it's not bad. Considering that Baltic birch is running anywhere from $80 to well over $100, depending on where you buy it. So here we go. I've decided what I'm going to do here is we're just going to fill the holes with a little bit of wood glue, tight bond. I want to say this is tight bond 2. I typically use. I have 3, but I usually use 2. And then the famous glue spreader. I do have a silicone brush that I use sometimes, but for this application, the finger works very well. And then, yeah, my wiping out the pants. There you go. That's why I have no nice garage clothes. So we're just going to jam them in the holes. And we'll put the outer piece on top. And right here, didn't get far enough ahead. I should have sanded everything before I assembled it. It would have made life much more easy. And here, I opted for pre-drilling the dowels because they are hardwood dowels. I didn't want to wait to clamp it. I could have gone without the screws in the surface, but I didn't want to wait with the clamps. So I just opted to run some screws. That's what I'm doing right now as I'm hunting for the screws. Oh, and my impact. What better way to clamp a workpiece down than with screws? And then once the glue cures, dries, it'll be rock solid. And again, for this project, I don't really care if there's screws. Not a big deal. I'm going to stain it anyway. I wasn't sure if I was going to paint or stain at this point. And what I should have done was maybe, run it through on the router table, put some nice round overs, maybe an OG fin or OG bit, OG offset bit. Again, sanded it before I assembled it would have been a much smarter choice. But whatever. This is kind of how I roll sometimes. A couple, 2-3 screws, 2 tree, and we are off to the races. Yeah, a lot of what I do, I kind of wing it and change things up as I go. I don't put a lot of or too much thought into the building process. Now here is where if I would have sanded everything before assembly, probably would have been a lot easier and a lot more consistent. As you see by the quality of this piece of plywood, this one piece of sheeting that I got was a little rough. I never did determine if that was ink, dirt, or some kind of mold. That black nasty stuff on there. But hey, it sanded off fairly well. And I think while I was sanding, I pretty much decided that I was going to stain it. Because I do have some black, I want to say it was, we'll see in a little bit when I get to that part. I believe it was Varathane. But it's garage furniture. It will look just fine once I hit it with some stain and a little bit of poly. Little hand sanding for good measure. There you go. Get all the rough, knock all the rough stuff down, and we'll be good to go. And this is the black onyx, I think. What we got? We had a Varathane wood stain. I have no idea why I bought this one. I don't remember what project I did that I needed a black stain. For the life of me, I can't remember. And I'm pretty sure that can's probably a couple years old. But here we go. Just dip it in and slap it on. So I will probably be doing, I don't know. I think I did 2 coats maybe 3. I didn't spend a whole lot of time on this. And the same with the poly. I want to say I did possibly, pretty sure I did at least 2. I think I did 3 coats. Because that's usually what they recommend is 3 coats. Because the poly, not sure offhand either if that was Minwax or a Varathane. We'll probably see it when we get to that portion of it. But I probably could have sped this portion up too, because the video got a little long on me. I sure I could shorten things up a little bit. Yeah, because this video turned out to be roughly about 30 minutes, and it's probably almost 20 minutes too long, to be honest with you. But this is what it is, and feel free to brush through this portion if I feel saucy. What I will do is hopefully throw some chapters in here, because I don't do a lot with chapters. I probably should. This here, if you haven't fast forwarded through this point yet, is my first YouTube video in a while. I haven't done one in, it's got to be going on 2 years, maybe longer. So if you're sticking with me at this point, why don't we throw down the comment, it's about time. Because I appreciate you sticking out and listening through my ramblings and all the boring, dull parts of this video. I'm trying to grow this channel a little bit. I know I'm struggling with the business. I don't know where I'm going with it. I'm kind of all over the place. I don't do any one thing, really. I do a lot of laser engraving. I do quite a few plaques, mostly for work, for retirements and gifts. I don't do a lot of custom furniture. I've done a few cabinets here and there, a couple tables. I don't really have a focused business plan of any sort. This is still pretty much a hobby. I really don't have much of a direction, so you'll see me kind of all over the place. If I had been making videos over the past couple years, I've done a lot of projects, a lot of one-off stuff. I've done because I do have the Amtech laser engraver, so I started out wanting to do just engraving for cutting boards I was making to customize the boards. I did quite a few of those, and they didn't sell really well. People liked them, but I just didn't really sell them for what I wanted to get for them. You know, I really had to underprice them to get them to move. A lot of people appreciate them. They liked them. They complimented me on them all the time. I would do craft fairs and events, and I'd always get compliments, but I didn't get a lot of sales. You know, I'd usually make up the entry fee, the fee for the weekend. I'd usually make that and a few dollars, but it wasn't anything excessive or that you could call business money of sorts. It was just more hobby money. But I really, I'm just kind of winging it at this point. You know, I'm not a fine woodworker. I do a lot of one-off projects like this. Just some of them are fairly simple. I've done some, you know, a nice dining room table, coffee table. I've done, you know, a craft table. Well, I did several tables with metal legs, just you know, square tubing, welded up. You know, I've been dabbling with the welding, you know, doing that myself, relearning that. I haven't welded in years. So that's been a process unto itself, but that's what grinders and paint are for. It really, really helps because my welds aren't great. They're not horrible, but they're I wouldn't build anything structural because I probably wouldn't trust it. But I enjoy it, you know, and I think that's the important thing, to really, really enjoy what you do. And there's me wringing the rag out. And then I'll go back off camera here and just wipe it down after it sits for a few minutes and I let the stain soak in. And let's see if I go into, here we go, is a Minwax polyurethane. Water-based, because I don't like cleaning brushes. Plus, I ran out of mineral spirits for the oil-based stuff. And this is an old can too. I've had this one sitting around for a couple 2-3 years. And here you see me using a chip brush. Don't judge me for this project. I don't mind picking a few errant hairs out of the project, because I know the chip brushes don't hold a lot of material. They shed badly. But I've ruined a couple decent brushes lately because I, again, ran out of mineral spirits and I didn't clean my brushes well enough and they hardened up on me. I didn't throw them out because I do believe I can soften them up once I do buy another gallon of mineral spirits. I like the oil-based stuff. I think it has a nicer tone to it, a nicer color, because yes, it is a little bit of a yellow hue to it. Not that it matters on a dark stain like this, but I did some shelving here a couple weeks ago, but it was a spar urethane, so it did have that yellowing agent in it for the UV protection. But the water-based stuff is just too easy to work with. I prefer it. Just, I don't like the way it goes on. But as far as protection, I think it's fine. I don't, like I said, I'm not doing high-end, like, lacquer finish style furniture. If I were doing that, I would be using probably a lacquer and possibly even spraying. I do use spray lacquers, you know, the Varathane spray lacquers in the cans. I do have some, I've tried I think it was a Rust-Oleum lacquer finish, and it's not bad. I wouldn't use it on, you know, large flat surfaces, the spray cans, but for smaller projects, for just quick and dirty protection. There you go. There's a great shot of my back with dog hair. Yeah, and it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to look good. I mean, stuff like little projects like this, I don't get too bent out of shape about being really hardcore detailed. You know, I've my whole life I've been a very a huge perfectionist. You know, I would take forever to get stuff done. I had to get it absolutely perfect every time. And as I've gotten older, I've gotten away from a little bit of that, you know, because it's just like sometimes it is good enough, and I'm okay with you know, small imperfections here and there, because a lot of the stuff that I would really focus on was stuff that nobody else noticed, and I would waste so much time and energy and stress out over details that frankly didn't matter because nobody else noticed them. Or if they did, they never said anything. So I think this is about it. This was the first of 3 coats. You know, I hit it with a light sanding, especially with the water-based stuff, to knock down the fuzzies and the grain that was raised and the rough finish. So, you know, 3 light coats, a couple sandings in between with just a 220 sanding pad, and pretty much it. So I'll wrap the voiceover portion up, and we'll wrap it up. There you go. Hope you found that useful. And if you have any comments, questions, concerns, feel free to throw them down below, and I'll get back to you. And like the video if you did. Subscribe to the channel, and we will see you on the next one.